It's the Decatur Arts Podcast, brought to you by the Decatur Area Arts Council.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jay.
I'm Jerry.
And this is the video version of our podcast, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Just search for Decatur Arts and look for the big, colorful DA. We've got a great show for you today. We recently sat down for a chat with Jim Culbertson and Steve Schepper of the Decatur Municipal Band. But before we get to that, we've not done one of these in a while because...
You've been a little busy.
But one of the big things that we did just recently do, and I believe it was the topic of our previous podcast, was virtual Corks and Forks, and that has now come and gone. We've done it.
It was quite an experience as well. Corks and Forks is generally the biggest fundraiser of the year for the Arts Council. This year, because we could not be in the same room with all of our wonderful guests, we staged a virtual Corks and Forks. And we learned a lot. We had a little trouble at the beginning and at the end, technical issues. But it turned out to be a lot of fun. We had a lot of people join us as guests. Both people brought in food. We ate food right there on camera. We had drinks, wine, and an assortment of other drinks. So it was a great event, and we did raise some money. But of course, it was only about a third of what we generally raise through our normal Corks and Forks events. So if you haven't had an opportunity to make a gift to the Arts Council, you can do that now. We certainly welcome that. Just go to decaturarts.org and click on the Donate Today button right there at the top of the page.
And we had a whole lot of people who actually helped us with the events.
We did.
From our restaurant and food partners to our distributors to Lucky and Famous Wine and Spirits. We had in-house Aaron Rockefeller and Stephanie Piles. They were helping manage the event behind the scenes for us.
We were social distancing with a very small group in the room.
That's right. Kim Faust, she was on hand and helping out.
Right.
And of course, we did have our sponsors who we could not have done any of it without.
Right. And many of them have been with us for a long time. This year's sponsors included the Staley Family Foundation, Alan and Beth Friggi, SEFQ, First Mid-Illinois Bank and Trust, Jimmy John's, Cisco, Famous Wine and Spirits, WAND TV, Newhoff Media, Decatur Blueprint, Land O'Lincoln Credit Union, Park Warehouses, and Skeff Distributing.
Yes, big thanks to everybody who helped us out. And not for nothing, it is, I think, worth noting, when we say that there were some technical difficulties, some of that was on our end. And you and I were very frustrated because we had done a test run that went very well.
Right. So our technical difficulties were really at the beginning of the evening. Once we hit our stride, everything was going great.
It was, absolutely.
Our guests were having fun. And then about 8:20 or 8:25, our internet at the Arts Council crashed.
And it crashed hard.
It certainly did.
It was out, the router was out.
Yeah, and thanks to Jay for just picking up the ball and running with it. He grabbed his iPhone and continued the evening from his iPhone, just waving it around and pointing it at people. And thanks for the people who came back and joined us after our initial broadcast crashed to be a part of that one as well.
It ended up being a completely different beast. But it was just on top of, again, everything was fine. And then right prior to the broadcast, things went a little wonky. And then everything locked into place. And then that happened.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Technology, yeah. But as I said before, it was definitely worthwhile us doing that because we learned a great deal, painful lessons that evening, but a great deal about what you're experiencing now, about the technology required to stay in touch with you through the internet and various platforms. So we learned a lot, and here we are.
We actually just launched something brand new. It was this past Tuesday. And why don't you tell everybody about that, Jerry?
We have a new series that we decided to try. It's a three-parter. Tuesday, this past Tuesday, next Tuesday, and the Tuesday after. It's called Art Journaling with Connie and Jennifer. And it is a Facebook live stream that you can join for free. Just tune in on Tuesdays at, what time is it, Jay? 7?
6.
6 p.m. And for about an hour, you can join Connie and Jennifer, two of our teachers. They'll be talking about the concept of art journaling, which is basically a visual diary. You draw pictures, you put in notes, maybe you write poems, whatever. From day to day, just something that helps you relax. You become a little more observant and focus on the world around you. Just a great, fun thing for you to do from day to day. And they also have demonstrations in terms of drawing techniques. So if you have paper and pencil, you can do this. They will help you get through the first few times, and then you'll be on your way to art journaling and adding some fun experiences to your life.
And I think what's really neat about the approach that they're taking, they're right up front saying you do not need to be an artist to do this, to appreciate what it brings into your life and how you view the world around you. And they really do break things down into very basic shapes. Can you draw a circle? Okay. Add some lines to that circle, add some additional lines to that circle, and they just keep stacking until you've got a flower on your page.
Right. You just have to learn how to train your eyes to draw what you see and not what you think you see, and they'll help you with that. One of the other things that they talk about, at least the last one, and I'm sure they'll move forward with this, is critiquing your own work. You're not criticizing yourself for being a bad artist or not knowing what you're doing and not being very good. You're analyzing the drawing that you've created and comparing it to the original source material, like a flower, which is what they drew last weekend, to determine, okay, which areas are darker? I need to add more lines to indicate that that's a darker area. This angle right here, it's not quite right. That's a little rounder and not quite as sharp. So they all should actually help you understand how to critique your own work as well.
Yeah, it's a really great show. I mean, we're one episode down. We've got 2 more that we have planned. But it's just Connie and Jennifer are great, and they're very inviting. And
so you guys go to facebook.com/Decatur Arts at 6 o'clock on each of those evenings. If you missed the one last Tuesday, you can go to our Facebook page, and it's posted there amongst our videos, and you can watch that one, catch up, learn what it's about, and be ready for the next one.
Now, this is a class that we're offering up for free to all. You can come, you can join. As you say, you can find it after the fact if you want, and go at your own pace. We're talking about how things are needing to be restructured in the midst of everything going on around us. And obviously, classes are something that the Arts Council is known for providing. And it's not something that we've been able to really do here recently, although we have been recently talking about classes, specifically over the summer. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about what we're kind of thinking?
Sure. Because of the restrictions, we can't have classes, a group of students and budding artists and experienced artists come into the room at the same time indoors. So what we're taking a look at is the opportunity to offer some classes for kids that actually take place in Central Park, which is across the street from us, outdoors, where we have a limited number of students based on the health guidelines, and there'll be social distancing outside, but we'll have a couple of instructors out there to help them through these art projects. So we're hoping to schedule 3 or 4 of those in June and July. We're also looking at the possibility and the technology to offer the cocktails and creations class that so many of our adult friends enjoy, but those would be Zoom classes where you would sign up, come by, pick up a kit of materials that you're going to need for that evening, and then tune in that night live with the instructor so that they can help you prepare and then talk you through the process, and then you'll be on your way with that particular project. Another thing that we're trying to work out is field trips. It could be for families, it could be for community groups, but those, in that case, small group of people, again, within health guidelines, could come into our gallery, check out the exhibit that we're currently working on, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, and then again go back out to Central Park and do some artwork that relates to what they just experienced in the field trip in the gallery.
Yeah, so nothing set in stone, but we hope to be sharing plans with people very soon.
Right. And, you may get an email, and keep an eye on our social media for more information on all that stuff.
And just to kind of tie everything together, again, we're talking about our organization and how we're having to kind of rethink the moving forward side of things. Jerry and I, had a conversation earlier this week with Jim Culbertson and Steve Schepper of the Decatur Municipal Band, and they're dealing with many of the same issues. In fact, their season is scheduled to start on June 1st, but Well, we'll let the conversation play out, and you'll see what's a coming. So,
hi, this is Jim Culbertson. I'm the director of the band.
And I'm Steve Schepper. I'm the Muni Band president.
Excellent. And thank you for joining us.
Welcome, guys.
Jim, this is your 42nd year that you're jumping into?
Well, I was hopeful it was going to be my 42nd, but it looks like it might be next year that it will be my 42nd.
I mean,
yeah, it's been
this year,
technically 42 years.
yeah, we had 41 with me leading the band. So
You're still the
That's
director.
awesome.
You're still the director of the band.
absolutely, yes, and it's been really great.
Awesome. And Steve, how long have you been with the
Let's see. I'd have to do some math. It would be 30 years. No, 40 years.
40 years?
Yeah, 1980 to 2020.
So you two are really kind of one right after the other then.
When we first started, you got to remember that I was in my mid-20s, and I was like the youngest guy in the band, and I happened to be leading it. And then Shep joined a few years after that, and we were the youngest guys. And now we turn around and we look in the mirror, and all of a sudden, we're the old guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
My hairpiece is still in place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Just for a little bit historical significance, I grew up in Springfield, and I was in the Springfield Municipal Band. I was the youngest person ever to be in that band. I got in when I was 14 years old, and I was just ready to join high school. But I was in the band over there for 7 years and learned how to play. We would play 5 to 6 nights a week, and learned how to do a lot of good sight reading. So kind of got hooked on the band thing way long time ago. And then I went to college and didn't play. I moved to Decatur and was in the Stephen Decatur High School band director for a few years. And I was kind of a sub in the Muni band, not really in the band. And 1 year they needed a conductor, and I auditioned for it, and I got the job. And it's been great ever since.
There you go.
And you were both in the school system at this point, teaching, yes?
Well, I had moved up to Berwyn and then had moved back to Decatur in 80. So Jim had started a couple years before I moved back, but I had student taught with Jim the year that the brand new Stephen Decatur opened.
So that's when you guys first connected, when you were a student teacher under Jim Culbertson.
That's right. And as I've always said, once a student teacher, always a student teacher.
Actually, we hooked up when I was first started teaching at Stephen Decatur in 72 to 75. I played in the Millikan Lab Band. I was taking some master's courses with Schuler, and I met Shep on occasion. He would come in and play every so often, but I've known him longer than the student teaching time since. So it's been a long time.
Yep.
Yeah, a long time. Really, really, really long.
Oh boy.
Were the two of you familiar with the band prior to actually joining?
Oh, sure.
Well, Jim was. I knew because Bob Cruzan, who was at MacArthur High School at the time, had been the conductor, I don't know, Jim, for 10 or 12 years at least, right? When you say?
Yeah.
Because the Decatur Municipal Band, this is a 100-year, or over 100 years now.
163 years.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy.
Of continuous service to the city.
Right.
And
That's pretty amazing.
We're one of about a dozen bands in the country that have been around that long, but we're certainly one of the best, that's for sure.
Well,
No kidding,
we're real
absolutely.
big on the continuous thing is a big deal because a lot of bands have, stopped because of lack of funding or, world wars or whatever. And our band went into several wars as a unit, back when you did that sort of thing. World War I, the band went in as a complete unit.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
So you were aware of the band and then jumped
I knew
in.
it was hard to get into because it was based a lot on seniority, completely on seniority. So, if I was in college and wanted to do it for the summer, I could show up to rehearsal all summer long and maybe never get a call for the job because I was last in line in the horn section.
That's exactly what happened to me. When I moved to town, I was anxious to get started with a band. And the seniority thing, there were guys that had been there for a long time. They had those chairs filled, and there was no room for me. So I became a sub. And it took a few years before I started doing the fall concert and a few other things. And then when the opportunity came up to actually conduct a band, I go, yeah, I'm in. So
does it still work that way? Do you still have people who attend rehearsals but don't have an opportunity to play?
Well, we have the seniority system kind of still is there, but we through the years I've been able to really ask this person to come in and play, this person to come in and play, and we've gotten better players as the years have gone on, and so the quality of the band, in my opinion, has really gotten a lot better.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen very often where somebody comes in and sits, through 4 or 5 rehearsals and doesn't get a call. It just doesn't happen.
Because, we'll make it real clear to them that it doesn't look like we have a spot for you this year. We know how you play. You've auditioned for us, so you're on our list. If we have a hole that, we don't want to waste your time. So I think we're doing it in a real fair way.
And I know just from this last year was my first year hosting or emceeing, being the voice of the
Jason, you're the voice of the band.
The voice of the Decatur Municipal Band.
And we chose you because of your big
big voice,
which I'm not using at the moment. Yes.
Yeah. You need to work on your confidence. You need to work on your confidence just a little bit.
Yeah, that's been an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the one thing that has been so interesting about that is we introduced a segment into the performances, Meet Your Muni, and hearing how long some of the players have been with the band, it is incredible. I mean, these are lifelongers, and
you have to realize that we have a pretty good mix of players who have been in the band for a certain amount of years, not as much as maybe Shep and I, but we have a fair amount of younger people as well. We have an intern program that we've had for high school kids to come in and play for a year and then join the band.
And we had 4 or 5 last year, I think. If I'm not mistaken.
We had something like that, but
every year's a little different.
Yep, every year's a little bit different, but we're if we find somebody that moves in to the city who's in their mid-20s or 30s and they're a player, we're in contact with them. So somehow we'll get them in the band.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they want to. They have the skill. They spent all these years learning how to play an instrument, and there's not a lot of outlets out there for everybody to do that. So we're all really anxious to do that.
Right.
And it is incredible being in the room. I've always said, it says something that you have one rehearsal a week. You rehearse,
right,
and then you play. And seeing everybody come together, seeing the generations come together, and seeing everybody, performing at the top of their game together week after week is incredible.
We're kind of unique in that we do the 1 rehearsal, 2 concert thing. A lot of city bands rehearse, 3 or 4 times and give a performance, or maybe even rehearse 6 or 7 or 8 times and only perform maybe 6 concerts over the summer. We do 24? If we have a full season, 24, 25 concerts in the course of the summer.
And actually, every performance that we do is a different set of music. Every week we have brand new music. So
and that's Sunday at Fairview Park and Monday at Central Park.
Yeah, right. Sunday is a shortened version of what we do for Monday night, and then Monday night's the big show with the 15 tunes or so that we rehearse on the Tuesday before. So once 7 o'clock hits for our rehearsal, it hits. And a few announcements, and then we go to work, play a few things, and work on each tune. Maybe have a spot or two that's pretty difficult. Always try to get those gray areas, so I'll stop and rehearse those spots. And so they're either tricky or a little bit left-handed, and so we try to get those things all taken care of, so we actually play the piece all the way through on the Sunday or Monday. It sounds pretty good. A lot of the tunes that we play, we haven't played all the way through before in rehearsal, and some of them we haven't played at all.
Yes, there's a famous phrase that we use in the band that Jim will say, "That'll play itself, turn it over."
Meaning?
So, I've heard that a time or two.
Here's my music. Okay, it'll go fine on Sunday. Turn it over. We don't even play it.
But see, I know the band, and I know the players that we have, and there'll be a piece of music that we really got to spend a lot of time with, in that 2-hour time slot. So there's some that are real solid pieces, either I know it real well, or we've done it before, and I know that there's no tricky spots to it. It will play itself. And so pretty much that's always worked.
And it's only been famous last words a couple of times.
Yeah.
And there are occasionally a song that once you have rehearsed it a couple times, it proves to be a little too much for that quick turnaround. And so those sometimes get binged.
Yeah, that does happen. Not very often.
When we're in rehearsal and we're doing a tune and I'm conducting it and playing through it, I'm going, this isn't going very well. Should we go on? Or should I really start rehearsing it? So it's always a little mind game. Usually every other rehearsal or so, I have a piece that's like that. And, to make a decision on the spot, do I invest that much time with this because I get these other things to do? It's a little tricky making sure that the 2-hour 7 to 9 is really adhered to. And we try to make sure that we start on time, and I try to always make sure that we stop on time as well.
Mm-hmm. And with your vocalist, I know sometimes that's a little tricky based on the arrangements, but how do you work the vocalists into
hats off to all the vocalists that come in and do this, because most of the pieces that we have are not written for a vocalist. So they're a band arrangement, sometimes in funny keys, not the original keys. And that plays havoc with real true vocalists who've listened to the originals and they know where the pitch is and all that. And then we mess things up and do only half of the song in a different key. So they all come in and make sure that they record things. And sometimes they don't sing a note. And within that 1 week, they've got to put things together. But usually I choose people who are musically schooled and have gone to college and know how to look at a score and figure things out. But hats off to all my vocalists that I've had all of the years. Almost all of them have done just a marvelous job of that scariness about you got 5 days to put this together.
Right.
So putting it together, what is that like? What's the process like for even putting a season together? Does it start just with you, Jim, and that's it? You find the music? Is it something that the board takes a look at? I mean, how exactly does the process work here?
Well, the board doesn't get involved with things until we have one meeting before our first rehearsal. And by the way, our first rehearsal is supposed to be next Tuesday. Oh, we're not going to have that.
Hey, that's okay, Jim. I've been playing my horn every day. I approve.
We have some procedural things that we have to go over, like with personnel, that sort of thing. So we have one time for all of us to get together and just talk about the season and this sort of thing. But I do all the planning of all the shows. I usually start after the fall concert the previous year of listening to music and listen from that point to April or May, trying to choose music for the following year. And that usually entails about 25 or 30 pieces at least that I go through after listening to about 200 or 300. So it's a long process. Well, I have to be very careful because there's a certain amount of money, and all these charts that we call the band arrangements are all real expensive.
That was going to be my next question was how many new ones do you bring in each year and how many do you pull out of your library?
Oh, probably 25 to 30, something like that on a yearly basis. Some years, the pool of good music is really pretty strong. Some years, the pool of new music is not very strong. So you can go listen to things that I missed 5-6 years ago. And I work with some publishers, and I know all the guys all the people to call and talk about what's something that I should really look at. And so they've been all a big help to me through the years. But it's a long process choosing music. As I said, I just really, sometimes I'll make a miss and buy a piece of music and it's really not good. And that doesn't happen too often, but that just drives me nuts and really drives me crazy because there's a lot of money involved. But I try to make sure everything that we put in front of the band to play is going to be a good piece of music, something that will work for our Muni in terms of their ability, and one that we hope that our audience will like as well.
Yeah, it's real hard, I think, having been a middle school band director all my life, you have to pick music that's going to be fun for the audience, that's going to be enjoyable for the musicians to play, and also something that fits the level of the group. And
when you
all three of those factors are hard to hit on one piece of music.
Mm-hmm.
That's the secret to a great band, is making sure that the literature you've chosen is right where it needs to be. And it's tricky. It's tricky. And I spend a lot of time with that. But I set up, back to the question, Jerry, about the planning part of it. The planning part of it for me is really the hard part of the season. Doing the season is like, oh, this is easy. Because I know the music, I get to rehearse this good band in front of me, and we get to go and play concerts. But setting things up, we had 14 vocalists we were going to get this year, 14 soloists. We have to plug in dates and, who's going to play it, who's going to sing and play at what time. So it's a real puzzle to put together that way. And this is how I start. I usually start with that. I send it out to vocalists, soloists, and get those guys kind of squared into a good puzzle to where they're fit. And then I choose a theme for them. And for that evening, then I start choosing music. And I don't know if you can see it. This is my Muni band room in my house. And I have, when you come over in the planning stage, I've got music, all the scores on the floor.
Yeah, I'd like to take a moment to describe that.
he's seen that through the years.
Because it is literally 25 piles of music, and he has it from left to right, week 1 through week 24. And, if I go over there and he goes, okay, well, what week do you want to solo? Or you're going to solo week number 7. Okay, here's week 7. And here's who's soloing, who's the vocalist. We got to program your solo in this stack. Okay, so here we go. So, okay, all right, well, while you're here, let's talk a little bit about so we go to the stack, week number 3 over here. And so he's got literally 24 weeks piled on the floor, ready to go. It's really quite something to see.
And do you shuffle things around in that process?
Oh yeah. Yeah. From week to week, and my original, for the most part, most of my original planning, because we put a booklet out for June, and June has 5 Mondays this summer. And those are all done before we even play a note. So sometimes I have to adjust it, and we do it whenever it's necessary. When one of those pieces just doesn't work musically, or it's just a piece that just doesn't go anywhere.
How much planning did you do for this season, totally unaware that something weird was going to happen?
And that's just what I was going to say, Steve. You just described what the room normally looks like, and clearly it doesn't look like that right now.
It doesn't look like that now. We talked early about whether he should start planning or not, because he said, I really should start next week. This is the conversation as I remember it. We're talking, he says, I really need to start next week planning the summer. Should I start? So we kind of like, well, no. How long do you think you can wait before you have to start? Well, it was maybe a couple more weeks, but that was really, that was going to really put him close.
To be honest, I didn't even start. And just because it doesn't look very hopeful for anything this summer, but we for sure June and July is out, and there's a small possibility of maybe August, but being able to plan, even if we would play some in August, well, I have to know by at least the first or second week in July to get vocalists and get people together, and for me to take this closet over here full of music and pull it all out and figure out what we want to do. So there's a lot of people think, well, you just pull some music and you just play. There's a lot of stuff way ahead to make it all happen. I remember Jim Walker, our great president before Shep, told me one time, he said, years ago, before I became the director, there was a director would go into the filing cabinet where the music was. He would go into the A's and pull a whole show of A's. Here we go. Now he'd give them out to the librarian. Librarian would pass out all the tunes. He said after about 2 or 3 weeks, everybody's going, wait a minute, are we this week we're doing all C's now, right? So not a lot of thought given really to
well, 24 weeks, 26 letters in the alphabet. So yeah,
you leave out the alphabet. That was
leave out the X's.
Nobody's filling out a show with X's, so
or even Z's maybe.
Right.
So there's no piles of music back there. You weren't able to put a season together, so that's a bummer. But there is a silver lining to this whole thing. There is still going to be a season, so to speak. Yes?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what's the game plan?
All right. So here's what we decided to do. We had one of our board members, Mary Little. She's one of our great flute players. She said, well, we've got to have some sort of presence in the season. We're all going, what are we going to do? She said, how about if we take a fall concert or so and put it out there? She says, do we have any recordings of them? I say, yeah. And so I came up with, and I'm going to show you this right now. This is unbelievable. This is a SunDisk Ultra, 64 gig, USB 3.0. It's this big, and it has on high quality video, high quality sound of all 14 shows from the last 14 years of our fall concerts. They're all on this disc.
It's an amazing world, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh yeah. So what from Mary's suggestion and talking with Shep too, we decided that why don't we just go ahead on every Monday night from 7 to 9 is present and show somehow on the internet these fine recordings that we have. That way, those people that are really Muni Band fans could have their Monday night fix during the summertime.
Yeah. So the game plan is every Monday of the season, we're going to introduce these shows and we're going to play them out. We're looking at maybe having some special guests join us throughout the season to talk about
in this same format.
Yep. And so we're still going to be able to present on Monday nights a night full of great tunes with a great band, but just virtually this year. So, but still giving people that time every Monday to set aside and think, all right, let's check out the Muni and
that'll be Monday at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like always.
Starting when?
Just like always.
Starting when?
I have
June
set up
1st.
Okay.
I've set up the schedule, and I have it right in front of me, all the Monday nights that we have, and I've already chosen where I'm going to put the concert. So we're going to start with the concert that we did last year. And I was actually just looking at it a few minutes ago. John Rashi, who's been the person who's been very instrumental in making the videos all work through the years, he's a star about that. We owe him a lot of gratitude for him giving us this archival memory of our shows. Anyway, we're going to start with the 2019 show last year, featured Andrea Pope and also John Gurecki. And that was the first year that Jason became our voice of the Muni. The next week, that's June 1st, June 8th, for instance, is going to be the last show that Shirley did. And that was the 40th year celebration for me. That featured Trevor May on vocal, Chris Raymond and Claire Taylor on bassoon, and et cetera, et cetera. We're going to go backwards through the season. So June 15th is going to be what we did October 10th of 2017.
How are we going to be able to do that, Jason? Exactly.
So
you'll reach us.
You will be able to just pretty much go straight to Facebook and come 7 o'clock, that live video should kind of pop up.
Facebook/what?
Facebook.com/Decatur Muni. That is where you will go. Monday night, 7 p.m.
We'll do everything we can to get the word out as well through our social media and our website and some of our other communications. So make sure everybody knows what's going on with the Muni Band this year. And we look forward to listening to those concerts all through the summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll share a lot more stories throughout the summer as we revisit some of these shows and some of the personnel that were a part of these shows.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, I just listened and watched some of the last year's fall concert, and there was 2 or 3 different cameras going at once. So the video portion of the last few years is really good. and the quality of the sound of the band and the audio is really quite good too. So it's going to be a good thing for us to present frankly, what we do.
This is something that most people out there in the community, in terms of the way the videos were shot and edited, haven't seen before.
Absolutely. Only band members. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, this is a brand new thing for everybody.
That's cool.
So we'll see you there. And remember, you're going to see this.
Oh,
that guy.
Look, it's Jim Culbertson.
Right. Recognize him until he turned around.
Yeah.
All right. Big thanks to Jim and Steve for joining us for that conversation. And the shows themselves, the Monday night shows, they're going to basically be broadcast from here in the Madden Arts Center, which is where normally they would be rehearsing for their shows. And that's kind of a neat touch.
Yeah, because you, Jason, are an employee here at the Arts Council, but you're also the MC for the Decatur Municipal Band, and you have tech skills. So all those things come together to allow you to, as an Arts Council staff member, to assist the Muni Band in putting these broadcasts together. So the technical stuff actually takes place here in our building because they're not rehearsing in our building this summer. But in order to make all this stuff happen, we help provide what they need to do that.
We're still keeping it all in the family.
Yep, keeping it real.
All right, so Jerry, just looking forward now as we head in to wrap things up for this episode. We talked about summer camps earlier, but another big part of the Arts Council is the gallery, and we've not been able to really do much with that here recently, but that's going to be changing.
Yes, we have our fingers crossed in terms of the kind of things that we can offer to the community. But right now, we are in the process of assembling an exhibit for our gallery. Each summer, we generally always have the International Arts Experience. And we had planned to do Discover Mexico this year. But because of the situation, we are saving that for next year. But in the meantime, Jamie Foley, our gallery coordinator, is putting together an exhibit for this summer called Decatur, Memories of Our Hometown. And she is getting an incredible array of art, artifacts, and memorabilia that celebrate the things that people who are living today would still remember fondly about Decatur. So we're only going back 50 or 60 years in the history of Decatur, but we're going to have an entire gallery filled with these kind of things. Some of the items she's brought in so far have to do with Mueller. We got a fire hydrant from Mueller. We got some signage and a variety of items from Elam's drive-through root beer, hot dog stand, whatever you want to call it. And then some things that have to do with sports here in the community, golf. What's the other thing that I was excited to see? And even the schools and some of that history. For example, if you graduate from Lakeview High School, you probably haven't seen the Spartan who resided in the floor there. We're going to have him in our gallery. So lots of cool stuff. And we're hoping to, again, allow small groups to come in and enjoy that. And some of them may be field trips if you want to add some value to your experience where you can do some art projects at a minimal fee. But to come into the gallery will be free, and we're hoping that we'll be able to offer that starting June 5th through July. But it all kind of is dependent upon the circumstances and the health guidelines we hear from our local officials.
Yeah, we miss seeing everybody in these walls, and
we won't be able to have
in 5, 10 at a time. We
there you go.
Do so.
We won't be able to have a First Friday gallery event, but we would like to see some of you kind of wander in your small groups and enjoy what I think is going to be a really fun exhibit.
So far, I mean, you've already said it, Jerry. I mean, the stuff out there that we've collected right now, oh my gosh, there's some neat stuff. And we're going to make it available even if you can't make it in or you don't want to make it in just yet. We're going to make this stuff available for you to see online. And so we still want to share as much as we can with however many people we can.
It's technology. It's technology again, baby.
That's right. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Decatur Arts Podcast. We hope to see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jay.
I'm Jerry.
We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
If you enjoyed this presentation, consider making a donation to the Arts Council at decaturarts.org.